then it conveys something wrong, which was not at all expected, which you didn't want to convey. So આથી વાત interpersonal communication ની. એનાથી આગળ વાત કરીએ તો ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશનલ કમ્યુનિકેશન, એટલે કે જે આપણા વર્કપ્લેસ છે ત્યાં થતા કમ્યુનિકેશન, ત્યાં થતા વાતચીતના વ્યવહારો. So in organizational communication, we can classify this into 3 different categories. One is internal organizational, second is external organizational, and third we can say personal. એક ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશનની અંદર જ અંદરના વિભાગોમાં અથવા તો અંદરના કામ કરતા વ્યક્તિઓ વચ્ચે થતું કમ્યુનિકેશન, that is internal organizational, right? Communication which takes place between 2 different organizations, that is external organizational. And personal, that means within the boundaries of one organization, people who are working with the organization, if they are communicating with each other on some personal basis, on some personal ground, that is called personal in organizational communication. અને હજી જે લાસ્ટ એક ટર્મ રહ્યું એના વિશે વાત કરીએ તો માસ કમ્યુનિકેશન. મિત્રો આજના સમયમાં માસ કમ્યુનિકેશનનું મહત્ત્વ પણ આપણે ઓછું આંકી શકીએ નહીં. એવરી નાવ એન્ડ ધેન વી આર giving much importance to mass media, mass communication, and it is a kind of large reach communication. It is also impersonal in nature, and presence of gatekeeper is must in mass communication. સાદું એક એક્ઝામ્પલ લઈએ તો માસ કમ્યુનિકેશનમાં આપણે ન્યૂઝપેપર્સ, ટેલિવિઝન અને કદાચ ઇન્ટરનેટના માધ્યમને પણ મહદઅંશે હવે લઈ શકાય, કારણ કે ઇન્ટરનેટનો પણ માસ કમ્યુનિકેશન માટે આજકાલ જે રીતે ઉપયોગ થઈ રહ્યો છે. સો એક સાથે અનેક અથવા તો મોટી સંખ્યામાં જ્યારે કમ્યુનિટીનો મેસેજ જતો હોય તેને આપણે માસ કમ્યુનિકેશન કહીશું, રાઈટ? સો ઇટ બિકમ્સ અ લાર્જ રીચ કમ્યુનિકેશન. At a time, the message goes to thousands, lakhs and crores of people at a time. So that is why it is called large reach communication. And when it comes to large reach communication, due to these characteristics, it is very much required that it should be impersonal, and there must be certain gatekeepers. Gatekeepers no matlab કમ્યુનિકેશનમાં આપણે શું લઈશું, એનો અર્થ શું કરીશું એ થોડી વાત કરી લઈએ. ગેટ કીપર્સ એટલે એવા વ્યક્તિઓ અથવા તો વચ્ચેના એવા સ્ટેજીસ જે વાતને થોડી ગાળીને આગળ મોકલે અથવા તો વાતની જેને કહેવાય કે સત્યતા તપાસી અને એને આગળ જવા દે. That is the role of gatekeepers. So in mass communication, when it comes to television, when it comes to newspapers, generally, editors, these peoples are, or we can say directors, or we can say the channel heads, right? These people are playing the role of gatekeepers. They have to be aware of, they have to be careful about certain things, that in mass communication there should not be any kind of error, any kind of, wrong message should not reach, because otherwise it reaches up to thousands, lakhs and crores of people at a time, right? And that's why it may create a great disaster if something goes wrong. So that is mass communication. Let us move ahead. Flow of communication. Now, what is a flow? Flow, that means from one side to another side, message is flowing. Message is, transferring, getting transferred. That is flow of communication. There are 4 different flows that we should talk about. That is downward, upward, lateral. Lateral can be also called as horizontal, diagonal, or it can be said even crosswise. તો મિત્રો આ 4 જે ફ્લોઝ આપેલા છે, 4 ફ્લો મતલબ કઈ દિશામાંથી કઈ દિશા તરફ મેસેજનો પ્રવાહ જઈ રહ્યો છે, સાદી ભાષામાં વાત કરીએ તો. સો અપવર્ડ એન્ડ ડાઉનવર્ડ કમ્યુનિકેશન એટલે એ પ્રકારની કમ્યુનિકેશન પેટર્ન જેની અંદર મેસેજ ફ્લોઝ ફ્રોમ ડાઉન સાઇડ ટુ અપર સાઇડ, દેટ ઇઝ કોલ્ડ અપવર્ડ. And the vice versa, that means from the upper side to the downside, that is called downward. So upward communication, that means when a person from the lower designation communicates or wants to communicate something to the higher designation person or the authority, he has to go through a proper channel, right? Employee has to talk to the manager, manager will talk to the senior manager will talk to the CEO, and something like this. So message has to flow through the proper channel in the upper direction, from lower designation to the higher designation. That is called upward communication. And the vice versa, when message is flowing from the higher designation to the lower designation, that is called downward communication. CEO of the company has to convey something to the last stage employee in the company. Then he has to follow certain pattern. He'll convey this to Mr. X, will convey this to Y will convey this to Z. In this way, the message will be flowing. That is called downward. Lateral, that means horizontal, that means people who are working at the equal cadre, people who are working with one another at the same level. That is called lateral communication. Right? People, those who are having equal cadre, equal designations, and they are communicating with each other, that is called lateral communication. One professor conveying something or communicating something to another professor, that is lateral. One manager conveying something to another manager, that is lateral. But diagonal communication, crosswise communication is altogether different, where there is no boundary, where there is no restrictions. Anyone can talk to anybody directly. That is called diagonal. Right? A peon can go and directly talk to the manager of the company. That is called diagonal. And friends, in today's era, most of the multinational companies, they do follow this diagonal pattern of communication, because it saves energy, it saves time, and there are less number of chances for the message to get spoiled at the end of channel. Right? So in majority of the cases, in upward and downward, what happens when message has to reach up to the final destination? It has to pass on through various stages, from one person to another, another to another, another to another, like this. And during this process, through the channel, message is getting spoiled, and it is very much possible that at the end of the channel, at the final destination where message was expected to reach, something else is reaching. So that should not happen, and that is why most of the companies nowadays, they always do prefer a diagonal pattern of communication at their workplace, so that it saves time, it saves energy, and message reaches to the concerned person in a proper way, proper manner, proper direction. That is called diagonal crosswise communication. So these are the flows of communication. Let us move ahead. Now, whenever we are talking about communication skills, definitely there comes 4 key skills, and popularly it is known as LSRW. That is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Here I have divided it into a different format, that is input and output. But why it is popularly known as LSRW? Because the majority of time that we are spending in these 4 key skills, the first thing that comes is listening. I mean, the majority of time that we spend, that is on listening. That is why it is L, I mean it stands first, and then comes S, that means compared to listening, little less time that we do spend, that is on speaking. Compared to this, less we spend on reading, and perhaps least we spend on writing. So these are the 4 key skills of communication, and if you really want to become an effective communicator, a very good presenter, a very good communicator, then you need to learn, you need to improve all the 4 key skills, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. અહીંયા આપણે જરા જુદા સંદર્ભમાં આના વિશે વાત કરીએ કે ઇફેક્ટિવ કમ્યુનિકેશનમાં ઇનપુટ અને આઉટપુટ એ રીતે આ આખી 4 કી સ્કિલ્સને ડિવાઇડ કરી દઈએ. તો ઇનપુટ, so far as input is concerned, there are 2 things, listening and reading, through which you are taking some inputs. It gives input. And so far as output, I mean your performance, you are performing, you are giving, you are sending, you are conveying, you are communicating something to someone. That's called output. That is speaking and writing. It can be in the spoken form, it can be in the written form, right? And so far as input is concerned, you are listening to someone and you are trying to understand, you are trying to grasp some messages, that is a kind of input. Or else you are reading a book, you are reading a newspaper, you are trying again to understand something, to grasp something, that is a kind of input, right? So LSRW, these are the 4 key skills which we need to learn if we really want to become a good communicator, a successful communicator. Apart from this, what else we need to keep in our mind as a, we can say, part of communication or tips for communication, effective communication? Let us talk about these terms. As I said earlier, that what you are saying and what your body is saying should match. And so far as body language is concerned, you must be aware of these 3 terms, that is gesture, posture, eye contact. And you can add one more thing, that is facial expression. Gesture is while you are speaking, while you are presenting, while you are communicating, the way you are moving your hands, that is gesture. In this particular context, we mean gesture means this: the way you are making the use of your body parts, the way you are moving your hands, that is called gesture. Now see, while making gestures at the time of presenting, at the time of speaking, how does it help you? So gesture helps you to elaborate your topic, to elaborate your message, what exactly you are saying. And at the same time, your gestures are helping your audience to learn, to grasp, to receive, to understand your message in an easier way, in a better way. So that is called gesture. Posture, that means the way you make your stand. For example, right now I am sitting in front of you people, right? Or else I may be standing in front of you and presenting my talk. So that's my posture. So it can be a sitting posture, it can be a standing posture. So the way you make your stand while you are presenting, while you are communicating, that's called posture. It should be very effective. I mean, you must learn certain things about your body language. Certain signs and signals you should never ever disclose in front of the audience while you are presenting, while you are communicating to them. So that is gestures and postures. The third major thing is your eye contact. See, if you are good at everything, you are good at your subject, you are good at your language, everything. But if you are not good at your body language, perhaps the major part of your communication abilities is missing. So eye contact, it plays a crucial role. If you are not paying attention to someone and you are just speaking, you are just communicating, it does not create any kind of impact on the person to whom you are addressing. So while you are presenting, while you are communicating, you have to keep your eyes moving on your audience, or you can say on your receiver, or maybe receivers if it is in plural. So eye contact is very important. For example, right now, if I am addressing you people through this television program, and if I'll not be looking at you, I mean here it comes camera, of course. So do you think it is it would be effective? I don't think so. So eye contact gives a kind of personal rapport, a kind of personal contact with your audience, with your receiver. And let us move ahead with the next few terms, that is kinesics, proxemics. Kinesics is the study of body language and proxemics is the study of distance. So while you are presenting, you have to be aware of the use of your body language and the sense of using your body language effectively. That's called, the study of this body language is called kinesics. And the proxemics, that means the space that you are maintaining, the distance that you are maintaining. For example, I have been allotted some 10 by 10 feet place to deliver my presentation. So how do I utilize that space? The sense of utilizing that space is called proxemics. And the second thing, how do I maintain my distance with the receiver? If you are very close to someone, you are not at all going to maintain the distance of not even for 4 feet. So that means it indicates the intimacy of your relationship with the person, right? If it is just a kind of social or we can say a kind of public relation, then definitely you are maintaining more distance with the person. So that is called proxemics, the study of distance, the study of space that you are maintaining while you are presenting, while you are communicating. The next is analyzing audience. મિત્રો, કમ્યુનિકેશનની વાત કરવામાં ઓડિયન્સનો પણ ફાળો ખૂબ મહત્વનો હોય છે. જ્યારે તમે કોઈ વાત રજૂ કરી રહ્યા છો, કમ્યુનિકેશન કરી રહ્યા છો, પ્રેઝન્ટેશન આપી રહ્યા છો, then you need to keep in your mind certain things. Who they are, I mean your audience, right? So audience whether they are male or female, whether they are young people, whether they are children, whether they are old aged people, or who they are, what is their background in terms of religious background, in terms of social background, in terms of even geographical background, all these factors, it makes a huge difference. So whenever you start communication, whenever you start presenting something in front of the audience, be aware of your audience, who they are, because see, ultimately while you are communicating, while you are presenting, you have to make your communication in such a way that it should be something beneficial to your audience, to your receiver, and you are doing something in the interest of your audience and your receiver. So that is the need, that is the requirement of analyzing your audience to it. Overcoming barriers in interpersonal relationship, that is another thing. Overcoming barriers, that means, as I said earlier, that physical noise, psychological noise, or any other kind of hurdles, you need to overcome those things. That's why you need to overcome those difficulties, and you need to avoid this kind of barriers, so that you can make your communication an effective communication. Interpersonal relationship, that means who your receiver is and how you are maintaining your interpersonal relationship. While you are communicating, while you are presenting, you have to maintain a good kind of rapport with your receiver. Otherwise, it disturbs, otherwise it affects in negative way to the entire process of communication. So let us move ahead. Fine. So here it is. Finally, we conclude that your communication skills can make a difference between being hired and being fired. Fine. I repeat, your communication skills can make a difference between being hired and being fired. Will find a way. So there is nothing impossible, and practice will make a man perfect. So મિત્રો, હું આશા રાખું છું કે આજની આપણી આ સેશનમાં તમને કંઈક નવું જાણવા મળ્યું, ઇફેક્ટિવ કમ્યુનિકેશન વિશે તમને કેટલીક માહિતી મળી, અને આશા રાખું છું કે આમાંથી જે કાંઈ તમે શીખ્યા એને તમે ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ કરશો, એન્ડ યુ વિલ સ્ટાર્ટ પ્રેક્ટિસિંગ some of the things that you could learn through this session, through the Sandhan program, through this scope particularly. And to become an effective communication, you need to keep these many things in your mind. And finally, I conclude here. Good wishes, best luck. Thank you.